Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Illumi-Nation. We've got a really cool episode that we are going to be running for you all today. And just really quickly, a reminder of what this podcast is and who we are. Val and I started this to really, we know how alone people can feel in their own awakening. And we are just here to support you in all the ways spiritual that we can. We have a bunch of different guests on, sharing different perspectives. We bring in channeled messages, and we always want to hear from you, what you'd like to see, what you'd like to hear. We'd love for you to come on our show. So just a quick reminder, we have all of our information in the show notes and how to get a hold of us. Today, we have got a medium with us. We are very excited to have Corrine Pelland with us today, and I will introduce our guests when we get there. We've got some questions we're going to be going over to ground everyone in what mediumship is, how Corrine connects, etc. So without further ado, let me just give you a little bit of information about Corrine before we get started. She is an empath and a psychic medium. She has had these gifts and became aware of these since she was a child. She also is a Reiki practitioner. And Corrine, I'm going to have you talk more about what you do and how this all shows up for you. And the first question we have is, how does mediumship show up for you? So I am going to give you the mic and take it away.
Thank you so much. Different mediums receive information in different ways. I don't typically see with my eyes or hear with my ears. It's usually messages and images in my mind, sensations throughout my body, and emotions. So it's a little bit like a game of charades for me. But my, what I call spiritual bouncers and gatekeepers are really good at helping me interpret messages that I'm receiving.
That's really fascinating. I love hearing everybody's different experiences in this, because my job in all of this is to normalize it all. There's so many different clairs in the way that people experience their gifts. And I love that you are so established at Beyond the Gate. She's in East Bridgewater, for any of you that are close by that want to go see her. And tackling it using your gifts and still being able to do the different jobs without it being like what people traditionally expect when it comes to mediumship. Like, I see dead people, it's like not always like that, right?
Right, absolutely. And I teach mediumship because it's a gift that it's an innate gift that we're all born with. It's our sixth sense. So I teach people about the different clairs and how, like you might feel connected to one more than the other, and I might feel connected to others. So, but it doesn't diminish accuracy in any way. It's just a different way of receiving information.
And language, right?
Yeah, it's a language. And I love that you're saying this because, I've been working with Val around part of my acceptance of my own channeling is that I don't have the evidential part. I can't see them. I don't know who they are, but it is the energy and the feeling that I feel in my body. And so I love that you are talking about this, because I do think people come to mediums and have an idea of what a medium is and some of the expectations that surround that. And I know, Val, you're going to move into these different frequencies that people actually tap into.
Yeah, I think that we all go in. I think even I've always been a spiritual person. And even with that, I didn't fully understand how some of this worked. We all have these expectations of what a medium reading is, what a psychic reading is, what everybody is supposed to do for us in the realm of this work. But there are different frequencies that can affect a reading, from being a little bit easier to a little bit more difficult, right? And so when we talk frequency, we're thinking, a soul that, if you relate to the words crossing to the other side or going to heaven, whatever resonates with you, carries a higher frequency. And then we have maybe earthbound spirit, where a soul hasn't actually crossed over yet, and that's a lower frequency. There's the frequency of the sitter, which you were talking to me about the other day, where if they're kind of in a heavy space, that can affect you trying to connect in a frequency. And even in that in-between space of purgatory, where people are kind of doing that life review stuff, these are all different frequencies that could create a very different experience within mediumship. And I really would like you to kind of share a little bit about that and your knowledge about it.
Yeah. So, I think first and foremost, it matters the sitter's energy. So if you're going to see a medium, you want to try to be as open as possible. If you're there to challenge the medium, that's going to potentially affect the accuracy of your reading, because even if it's unintentional, you're blocked, you're closed. So I think that that's really valuable. And more often than not, folks that are in such intense, deep grief, anger, resentment, and are not processing, that's an additional barrier because it's lower vibration, right? And if you're sitting there with your medium and you're trying not to cry and your shoulders are up around your ears and you got a big fat lump in your throat and you're fighting tears, that's another barrier. Breathe, relax, shake it out, let it flow.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that, the different frequencies we talk about, like within our work, a sacred container. It does affect when you're connecting to this person and the loved one, and you're like this vessel of information. It's all very relevant. And if somebody has a big wall up and they're like, nope, you have to prove to me who you are, like it automatically like creates a shift in intention. Okay. And so intention is everything. Your thought carries frequencies and vibrations, and we talk your reality in life. And so when it comes to mediumship, and I love that you are on the same wavelength with me about this, your thoughts matter, your energy matters, your intentions matter, your openness to the experience matters. As a professional channeler, for me, when I'm having casual conversation, I know this is the same for you, Susan, too. Through the conversation, you get a massive amount of information. And if someone's just sitting there stoic and quiet, like, like, how does that shift it,
And because we have free will. And I think that this is really important for people to understand, that sometimes people get freaked out by the idea of mediumship or psychics. They're going to be able to read my mind. We have free will. This is why we can shut it down. Right. If we don't want someone to read us, we don't want them to read a part of us, that won't come through because of this free will that we have as sovereign beings. And so, and in fact, this is a beautiful segue into this idea of poor energetic boundaries.
Yeah.
And so, Corrine, I'd love to hear you talk about what does it mean when we talk about poor energetic boundaries, because the integrity of the reader is also so important.
So again, as I mentioned, I teach people how to access these gifts. I'm not giving them anything. I'm teaching them how to access what they already have. And I have a whole section on integrity and consent, right? So, I think it's really critical that we don't read people without their consent. So that's something that as a sitter or as someone out in the world, if you encounter someone who does this work, know that they shouldn't be cold reading you without your consent, right? And as an empath, and I know I used to struggle something really terrible, and I see more often than not, because empaths come to me, right? Because like water seeks its own level, so it's something I have a ton of experience with. So those folks come in my direction, and having them say, oh, I can't not help people. I can't step away from situations where people treat me poorly, or, those are all energetic boundaries. And as an empath, we often feel like it's our responsibility to take care of others because we can perceive them and sense them in a way that the average person can't or chooses not to. But the truth is, we can't be of service to our brothers and sisters out there if we don't have a good sense of protection, healing, and energetic boundaries.
Right. And that kind of goes along with what we were talking about yesterday, when we're talking about being an empath and like that need to be a savior when it comes to like being,
which is just, that's all ego, right? Like that's all, it's
1 million. If you feel like hyped up and there's something fueling you and it's feeding you in that way, instead of it being about the other person, time to dive into that shadow work, people. Right.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And that was completely my experience. Was I needed to get deep into that shadow work. Why did I feel the need to rescue? I had to heal that part before I could be an effective medium, truly.
And this is also sorry to interrupt you. I will
No.
come back, but I just want to interject in this moment, because that is true for all healers. We always have to be doing our own work and clearing our own channel, regardless of what kind of work we're doing. And, I remember working with this medium, we said therapists have some of the messiest energy, because we are constantly, working with people that have mental health issues. And if we're not doing our own work, that does provide, that's what transference and countertransference is all about in our, in the therapeutic realm, and being aware of that, because it does color the work that we're doing. It just does.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a question also. When we're talking about the different frequencies within your experience, I know that, no, it's all good. I know that, like, I'm a rescue medium, so I can see a variety of different frequencies, whether it's, an entity, demonic, earthbound, a higher frequency vibration that's not of this area, angelic. Like, there's so many different frequencies that we're connecting to. What do you do when you come across an earthbound spirit within your work? Do you communicate, or do you pass, or do you direct them in some way? I'm really curious, because that is something that's common, where a spirit hasn't fully crossed over. They might have a message they want to share. They're struggling with, an obligation to certain loved ones, where they still are feeling so stuck in this experience. How do you deal with that within your work, knowing that? I know you have the ability to see the difference too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very distinctly different encounter, right?
Sure.
The energy, when you're communicating with a spirit and I use the term, on the other side, or the other side of the gate, or whatever, when you're communicating with someone who has crossed over and is healed, it should be relatively smooth and easy. When you're communicating with an earthbound spirit, a lot of times it's very chaotic or broken. I used the analogy yesterday of when you're going through a tunnel and your phone service comes in and out, and it's that in and out kind of communication and connection. And often what's holding them is feeling like they have incomplete things, like you just mentioned, like I need to get this message to my living someone, whatever, right? So I do not connect. If I sense that energy coming through, this is where I activate my spiritual bouncers and gatekeepers, and I let them be in between me and the earthbound spirit, right? Because I'm incredibly sensitive, and even though I have great boundaries, and this is part of my boundary, right? Because I know I can get physically sick, and I have gotten physically sick early on in this work 10, 12 years ago, when I was still really learning my craft. I encountered an earthbound spirit, and I became very unwell. I actually ended up getting a parasite, because my immune system was weakened from the encounter, and I wasn't able to fight it off. Yeah. So, this is where I'll activate my spiritual bouncers and my gatekeepers. And I talk a lot about this in class, and I'll have them help me get any information that needs to be delivered. And I will ask them to deliver the information that's needed to the earthbound spirit, that they can be free, they can release. And it's different with each situation. But, a spiritual bouncer, as I call them, it becomes my go-between there.
Yeah. I love that term, spiritual.
Same, I do too. I notice the same thing with the lower frequencies. So obviously, when they're not when they lose that connection to source, when they pass on, they have to thrive off of the energy that's provided around us, whether it's through scaring people and that adrenaline energy, or actually physically connecting to somebody to, raise their frequency up. But when the frequency does get to a certain point, it can make you quite sick. I mean, a lot of people will be like, experience it, like all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, get me to a bathroom.
Like a purge.
This way. It's so bad. But and
I often find they don't necessarily intend. So there is a situation where you're talking about the jump scare and the spook and the adrenaline and all of that. That certainly exists. But in my personal experience, this particular energy, it was a female, she did not mean me any harm.
Oh yeah, no.
She was restless, she was lost, she was not connected, and drained my life energy, my force, right? And I wasn't able to fight off that illness that I encountered. But I use a lot of Reiki energy too to shield myself, right, and protect my immune system and my energy.
Yeah, no, that's really great. I'm glad that we kind of talked about that, because that can also interfere. People have the idea of like, who's going to come in and talk. And I'm sorry, Susan, I'll finish this quick so you can step into what you were saying. And if your loved one hasn't actually crossed over yet, it might be a challenging read, right? So there's so many different reasons why something would or would not happen in the realm of mediumship, and it's not necessarily a reflection of the reader be circumstance. What were you going to say, Susan?
No,
Sorry.
I was just saying this is a great, and I think it's a beautiful segue into introducing our two guests here that are here with open hearts for this reading. And so we've got Bonnie and Rebecca. Bonnie lost her grandparents. Rebecca lost her 25-year-old son, Skyler. But I'd love for each of you, just quickly, whatever you would like to tell us, what your intention is for today, who it is that you're trying to connect with. And of course, there are no guarantees. But Bonnie, why don't you go first, and then Rebecca will jump into you, and then we'll hand it over to Corrine.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
And when Val reached out to me, or I reached out to Val, I was really interested in reconnecting with my grandmother. Long story short, she died when she was my primary caregiver when I was young, and she died when I was 18. And at that time, like, I was a little bit selfish. I didn't really want to see her in the state that she was in when she was passing. And so I kind of have lived with that regret, I guess, because she did wait until I showed up to see her, and then she actually subsequently passed the next day. So that's definitely the person that I'm looking forward to or hoping to hear from today.
Great, thank you.
And Corrine, I know that you are already tapping into the energy of what she was saying, and I'm not sure for the purpose of how you do things, if you want to just stay in this energy and then we can shift over to Rebecca afterwards. I want to respect your process.
If that's okay, I'd like to do that.
Of course it is. I noticed that's what was happening, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I did too.
Yeah, okay, let's
So
do
it's
that.
funny because I'm on my phone, I can't see who's talking. I can only see pictures of you guys. So if I'm interrupting, that's what's happening. But I have some very powerful energy here. And when I say powerful, I mean good communicator. This female is a good communicator. I'm feeling sensations in different parts of my body. So Bonnie, if you could validate as we go, that would be very helpful for me. I feel two main things for her. This feels like cancer feels very specific to me, where the organs are shutting down. I've got multiple organs failure here, but ultimately I have a lot of pressure in my chest. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, and here's the thing is your grandmother was a very, she had a lot of love, but she was very direct. Yes. Is that part of her personality trait?
Yes.
Yep. And, I really do want to say that she's pretty no nonsense. I feel like she's saying to you, and I feel like you're going to go that. Yes, I know, like, of course she doesn't hold that. Of course she doesn't feel any kind of way about that. She waited. And when she felt certain that you were ready for her to go, she let go, and she held on to the physical form, which I do feel she was unconscious at that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because she's showing me she was still connected to the body, but not inside the body, if that makes sense. So still connected to the physical form, but really no longer feeling the sensations and things, but very still connected. So she may have been able to physically react mildly, but it was mostly feels like either comatose, natural, or medicated. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. Okay. So she truly, and there were others that came in and out. She waited for you. So you're not the only grandchild, but you and her have a very significant, you guys really went through a very traumatic situation together many years before this. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So she's saying we're bonded. That bond cannot be broken. We are bonded. And also she really understands you. You were a little bit, not that you were wild, but you had some trouble. You had some struggles emotionally due to some of the trauma I was just talking about. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so she understood you, and she was not. She could be. I don't want to say hard, but I want to say very firm with you, which was, honest to God, it's what you needed. You weren't going to make it without that. Yes.
I'm over here
We were
giggling
just
because
talking about that, but yes, absolutely.
I'm giggling because I've known her since she was a teenager, and
Do you know the grandmother as well, and who's
No,
speaking right now?
I don't know her, but I was part of the ruckus. So
Part of the ruckus. Oh, I love it. But that's great because you came through the healing together. So the biggest message is she's like, I don't. She's not holding that. We are connected. We are bonded. That bond cannot be broken. And you were doing what you needed to do for yourself in that moment. It was less selfish and more self-preservation. You were still a child in a lot of ways. Did you say you were 19?
I was 18.
You were 18. 18 is still a child, legal adult, still a child, especially processing all the emotional upheaval you were still recovering from. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
You got to let yourself off the hook. She holds nothing there,
Okay.
nothing. So much love. So much love to you from the other side. She's very proud of you. I don't know what you've done in the last 18 months. You had another big shift. What's the big thing that's happening for you right now?
Well, I have like completely shifted like how I behave, like certain behaviors that I've had. I started taking better care of myself, and I just told Susan and Val that I just got approved to purchase my first home. But I have like done tons of community work over the past. I want to say I've been doing it for years, but I opened a community center in the city that I do the community work in within the last year.
So much pride. She is really like, she's like almost bragging on you now. She's like telling me all the things. So remember, I'm not hearing her voice. She's showing me kind of like information. Is this in the neighborhood you grew up in, or a very similar neighborhood to where you grew up?
It's not in the neighborhood that I grew up in, but it's similar.
Yeah, she feels so much pride that you're giving back. And so just know that she's very proud of you, and that connection never shifted, not 1 second for her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
this was beautiful. Thank you. So just kind of giving everybody an idea of how this works and the way that different gifts can actually surface. And that was really awesome. I felt her energy, and there was just so many acknowledgments and beautiful vibrations coming through this reading. Thank you so much, Corrine. Bonnie, do you have any questions before we kind of like close out
Disconnect.
of space over there?
I don't have any questions. Again, I'm just really grateful. I've done a lot of work around this myself, so I'm really grateful to have gotten that message.
I love that. I
Thank
mean,
you.
you are like one of the most selfless people I've ever met. You give back so much. We came from a struggling place of, you know what it is. And the way that you give back to the kids, it is beautiful. So I can totally see why she's so proud of you.
Thank you. No, thank you so much.
And all of Bonnie's information will be in the show notes for anyone that wants to like check out what she's working on and how she gives back to the community. Okay, so we're just going to close out of Bonnie and step into Rebecca. So I don't know if you want to like hop on your microphone and explain your situation, a little bit about yourself.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me? So
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So like Susan said, I did lose my 25-year-old son, and I'm trying not to have any expectations about, anything. Of course, I would love to hear from him, but I'm just, can you hear me?
No, she just fell off of our reading. So I want to share with the audience. So you have a little trickster with you, right?
Me?
Yes, we're
Skyler.
about your son being a little bit of a trickster. And it's I am glad that Bonnie went first. We'll wait for Corrine to reconnect. But energetically, it's really interesting how things like this happen. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all, but we'll try to see if Corrine can hop back in within a minute. But I guess in the meantime, while we're waiting for her to come back on. Oh, here she is. Yay.
Sorry about that. Everything froze and I was trying to adjust it and I lost it.
To be perfectly honest, Corrine, I think it was expected. Okay.
So Rebecca, take it away.
Okay. So I don't know if you, I lost my son. He was 25. You know, I'm trying not to have expectations. I will be fine, whoever comes through, but of course I would love to hear from him. And yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay, so can you say his name for me?
Skyler.
Skyler. Okay. Okay, so a couple pieces of information. So usually I ask them to show me where they are. Like I feel parents and grandparents up here, siblings, peers, and then kids, but you already told me this is your son, so he's identifying here. And then they usually tell me personality traits, and I will say he feels like he could be very sassy, very funny, maybe some dark humor too for him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. From what I hear from his friends, maybe not with me, but like with his friends and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting a lot of dry, almost, I don't want to say dark humor, but I feel like there's some snarky energy from him. Does that make sense from what you've heard from his friends?
Yeah. I mean, not from his friends, but more from like probably, yes, I've seen it. Yes.
You've seen it. Okay. And you know, I think in a lot of ways, so I want to say incredibly talented, very, very gifted, but I also feel his own worst enemy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh boy. Yeah. And here's the thing is I think that he always felt things very, very big, like just really just his emotions, just the depths of his heart is like the depths of the ocean. Make sense? Did I lose you?
No.
Nope. Totally. Yes.
Yeah. But here's the thing is he's an empath, right? And to have all of that can cause some a little bit heaviness for him. And I think that was definitely a piece of this for him. Can I ask, did he have a role to play in his own passing?
He didn't kill himself. No.
Nope. That's not, did he either I feel like he wasn't able to make good choices about, sorry?
Yeah, he overdosed.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. So I feel like he wasn't able to make good choices about what was right for him, but really, he really struggled to change. This was not a party situation for him is what I'm getting at. This was not like I'm having too much fun. This really feels like more like self-medication to me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so you have to know, and I think that it's interesting because he was a really happy little boy, yeah?
I mean, let's see. I never really felt like he was super happy, but yeah,
Okay.
I mean, he was a wicked happy baby.
Yep.
And yeah, I would say he was such a good baby. And you know, but he definitely struggled throughout the years. Yeah.
He was very intuitive, but you are too. Yes, you're pretty psychic yourself, Rebecca.
Yeah, I would say.
So that definitely got passed down, but I don't feel you were as connected to your gifts at this time as when he was a little guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So how long ago did Skyler pass?
3 years ago.
3 years. Okay. Boy. So, you know, I feel like he really, he's, they don't often say that I'm sorry, but he is validating. He knows you did everything you could for him. You had to lay some boundaries there though. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that wasn't well received at the time, but he knows how hard that was for you. Now he wasn't able to connect to that in this form, but now he's enlightened and he sees and feels and senses. Do you have any questions for him, or I feel like you're looking for one specific piece of validation?
I don't know as I'm looking for a specific thing. I think, I always believed that we continue on after we die. And then when Skyler died, you question that because it's so important, like he was so important to me that I've always been like, oh God, is he okay? Is he, even though deep down, I know that he is. And I've had visitation dreams from him early on after he died. I had two that I know for a fact were visitation dreams. I could touch him. I felt the warmth of his skin, everything. That's how I know it was him. There wasn't a question. I have dreams about him all the time that I know that are just dreams.
Right.
And these were two. It hasn't happened in a long time. It was in the first year. But I guess, like any parent, I want to know my baby's okay,
Yeah. So what I want to tell you is somewhere around the age of 5, things shifted for him. So I want to validate, he always had very big emotions. So, which meant when he was really happy, he was really happy. And when he was not really happy, he was really not happy. But somewhere around the age of 5, it seems like he started to have a little bit more trouble. So I don't know if there was hyperactivity there or what, but I'm feeling like things really shifted around the age of 4.5, 5.5. Does that make sense?
Yeah, his father and I got divorced when he was 6, and that was huge.
Also, and he really held a lot of that. Being an empath, you could try and put on a brave face and all for him. He could feel everything that was going on, but in that little tiny body, he didn't really know how to process or deal with that.
He had a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And throughout until he died, just a lot of anxiety.
So I just want to say that with this crossing over for him was a healing and a separation from that anxiety and that overwhelm that there's a couple things. So definitely overthinker, anxiety for him, but he really, I believe he was likely a medium. He could sense, and he was definitely an empath, could sense energies all around him. And it just was incredibly overwhelming all the time. So while he definitely did not intentionally take his life, in fact, we had a little bit of, what's it called when you think you can't get hurt?
Yes.
Do you know what I can't think of the word, but there's like a word, invulnerability. Like he thought he was invulnerable, and sorry?
He did. He definitely thought it could never happen to him.
Yeah. So he's validating, like it, not that you thought at all it was intentional, but he's validating. Sorry?
I did not think it was intentional.
Yeah. So he's validating that, but he's taking ownership for the role he played in his own passing, which, back to my original question, did he have a role to play? So, he's at a place of peace and honestly very consistent. And I don't know if you felt this when you connected with him in dream state, where it's just a very calm, whereas in life, I feel like it was very up and down for him. This is a very calm, consistent, serene energy from him.
I did feel that.
Yeah. So
both the dreams were very, just like, he didn't even talk in either one, but it definitely felt like him just saying goodbye and loved me. And
as one of my friends, Maureen Hancock says, like, I'm not dead, I'm just different. So, but he is very different, his whole energy, but there's still remnants of the things that you love about him, right? So please know that he is at a place of peace that he never fully really attained here on this side. And that, things have come to a balance for him. Anytime you think of him, he tries to show himself to you, not just in your sleep, but you have a little bit of the overthinking stuff. You have a very busy mind also, Rebecca. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It works for you, though. It works for you. Helps you get stuff done.
I'm sorry.
I said it works for you. It helps you get stuff done.
Yeah, both Skyler and I have ADD.
Yes.
So
I felt that really energy from him, especially when he was a young boy, but certainly the substance really helped calm that a bit.
Yeah.
So please know he is okay. He is with you. He's trying to show you his presence more often than not. But I'm going to ask you to ask him for specific things. When you're looking to hear from him, ask him for a butterfly or a flower or whatever. And then just trust that it's coming. And if you're driving down the street and and I'm just going to say it was a butterfly, there's a butterfly bumper sticker, take it. That's him, right? He's doing everything he can to let you know that he's there, he's okay, he's at a place of peace.
Yeah. That's what I know inside.
Yes.
It's always hard when it's, he is my only child. So it's tough, but like I've always felt deep down that, he's not suffering and he's at peace. And, I feel that he's with me a lot. So
He is.
Thank you so much.
Can I pipe in?
Yeah.
When I love that you're encouraging Rebecca to find like a synchronicity for them. And I think that like it feels like he's excited about that. Do you have something that you guys are connected to within one another outside of a butterfly that you would like to already kind of put into place before? Because I think it's good to think about that and set the intention around that.
Oh God.
The black feathers.
Oh yeah. I mean, like last summer, 7 days in a row on my walk, I would see a perfect feather, like perfect. I was showing Susan knows because I'd send them to her. And
I was talking to you once and a black feather was right in front of me, a perfect black feather.
So there's already like this connection between
like it was crazy. They were perfect, like not damaged whatsoever. They were absolutely perfect. I wasn't looking for them. I've never seen feathers like that. Like I wasn't looking for them not one time. And then I started taking pictures of them, and I have like pictures of all these perfect, gorgeous feathers.
Yeah,
and I still find them. I still see them. What?
I said I'd be collecting them. Give me all the feathers.
Well, believe me, but that's how I did it. I took the pictures, so I have collected them. Because after the first two were exactly the same feather in different areas of my walk 2 days in a row, and they looked identical. Like they were identical feathers, perfect in like miles away from each other. Then I started taking pictures, and every day I was just like, oh my, what? Like I would just.
So your thing is feathers. I love that so much. And I think that like, this is something that everybody can do when it comes to synchronicities and spirit. Like, it's not like they have to choose something or you have to but you can decide what it is that you are going to associate with a person and then allow the synchronicities to come in.
And bluebirds are the other thing.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
I've never seen a bluebird. Like I've never seen one in like live in person. And right after he died, it might've been days, all these bluebirds started being outside of my house. And it's funny because I haven't seen one in a while. And yesterday there was this bird in the trees, like chattering away. And I'm like, hi buddy, blah, blah. I didn't see it. And then it flew down close to me and it was a bluebird. And I'm like, oh my God.
That's really cool. I think it can be really empowering when we do that. When we create.
Thank you, Skyler.
Yeah.
Corinne, are you getting a hit on, are you getting any confirmation from Skyler?
So I just want to ask, Rebecca, do you walk near the ocean or by a body of water with a lot of rock?
I just am going to repeat that because her recording was kind of messed up, but she was asking if you walk near the ocean or near a body of water.
All the time. All the time.
Yeah.
I love the water.
Small rocks.
Small rocks.
You mean, do I go to a place where there's small rocks?
Oh, we lost her.
Connection.
That's okay. And so I think that like just the confirmation that when you're doing these things and when you're having these moments that he is in fact there with you. And so here she is.
It's okay.
No idea what's going on.
That might be from Skyler too. I really believe all of this because Rocky plays with energy like this. It's crazy. I mean, it's just not a validation. That's what I'm feeling. I've been encased in chills this entire time.
So little rocks.
So I'm holding a crystal right now, and I saw what looked like, I could smell like the cold, very cold ocean air, and I saw a heart-shaped rock on the ground amongst a bunch of rocks. So look for that. If that hasn't already happened, look for that on your walk specifically.
Yeah, he loved the ocean. He was always out on the boat with his dad. We even sprinkled his ashes.
Perfect.
And I'm always walking, and if I can walk near water, I always do so. And I'm holding 2 crystals that were his.
Okay, then.
All right. So we're going to close out the connection with Rebecca. Thank you so much for coming on and sitting with us and allowing this to be streamed publicly for people to view. I appreciate you stepping into this with us today, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Susan. And thank you, Corrine. I made my day.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to mute you out and we're just going to talk to Corrine a little bit more. So Corrine, we covered so much today about energy, how energy affects a reading, what to expect during a reading. And I'm not sure if you want to share some of the stuff you have coming up. You and I are actually doing an event together I'm really excited about, but share with everyone like where they can find you and what you're going to be doing for your next class.
So my office is in East Bridgewater. I'm in the Forge Pond Professional Business Park on Route 18 in East Bridgewater. I have a full suite here, and I share my space with a reflexologist and a massage therapist. And upstairs as well, right above me, the unit right above me is Be Where Your Feet Are, which is an amazing organization. If you're not familiar with them, definitely check them out. And I am going to be teaching my absolute favorite class. This class always sells out. Every single time I host it, it sells out, and I have like 4 spots left. This is my mediumship development and psychic protection class. So I wrote a workbook and published a workbook to go along with this class. It's a 4-week class, and it starts halfway through May and goes halfway through June. And the biggest piece, lots of people teach mediumship in my general area, which I'm on the South Shore, Massachusetts, East Bridgewater. So lots of people teach mediumship. Not enough people teach that psychic protection piece. And in my opinion and experience, it's irresponsible to be doing this work without first getting the psychic protection really firmly rooted before you do this work. So I love the opportunity to teach people. It's my absolute, I do lots of things. I officiate weddings. I do mediumship and psychic tarot readings. I do Reiki, lots of different healings and things I do on a day-to-day basis. My favorite thing is to teach people to tap into their own gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
So,
and we'll have all of your links and whatnot in our show notes, because obviously it looks like you do Zoom readings as well. If people want to do a phone call reading with you.
So I do phone, I do Zoom. I actually offer a single question reading, which is like a typed up reading, not for mediumship, but for questions about your future or understanding something from your past. So phone, Zoom, in person in my office. I do in-home parties as well. I won't come out for one person, but for a group of people I do. And I travel, about an hour and up to an hour and a half for a party.
I do just want to say, like, I love what you're about in teaching the energetic hygiene, the energetic boundaries. I think it's so important. I think that Susan and I talk a lot about being a clear vessel within this work. And if you haven't done your personal work and you have kind of these leaks within your aura and your connection to other people, or, that unnatural like merging of two in this work, it can really lead to not only draining your life force, but also like just negative experiences. And it can scare people off in the realm of spirituality. And I love that you're on that same wavelength of us as empowerment with people. There's healing for everybody. There's no lack in what people need to work on in this world. And I love that you are providing people with the tools so they can empower other people. And if there are any healers and practitioners, therapists, life coaches, whoever watching, I'm going to be down at Beyond the Gate with Corrine doing gift activation and past life regression work. And it's going to be super fun, where we are going to deep dive into reading lives with specific gifts that you're carrying, and learning how to really utilize those and put them into your work. Because we all are just so unique energetically. And the more we learn about ourselves deeply and our vibration and what our strengths are, the better off we are, right? So you teach people how to dive into frequencies and using their particular gifts to understand and support themselves within the spiritual community. I love it so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you, for being here. And we're going to, as always, I know that our listeners are taking what they need from this. And again, all the information about Corrine is going to be in our show notes. And thanks, you guys, for tuning in. And thank you, Rebecca, for coming on.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye for now, guys.
Have a great day. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye.